va llegando Salman, pero para no ir
We
perdiendo más tiempo,
see that
simplemente
Salman will be
presentaros
here
muy
in a minute.
rápidamente
So
a
let me
nuestros
please
tres
introduce you to our
invitados
three guest
de esta
speakers
conversación.
for this
Tres
roundtable.
personas con mundos muy diferentes. Paula
Three
Ortiz, con
wonderful
esa
colleagues.
profunda
Paula Ortiz
sensibilidad
with
poética,
this
¿no?, que explora
profound
los
poetic
conflictos humanos
sensitivity
desde una
exploring human
estética visual
conflicts from a
sin duda cargada
visual
de muchísimo
aesthetics
simbolismo,
full of
y un cine que
symbolism,
nos aporta,
a form of
donde no pierde
cinema
nunca el sentido a la realidad y su
where she
belleza
never loses
visual,
sense
pero
of
donde no
reality
adorna
and
el dolor, sino que lo
beauty,
revela
and where she
con
does not
claridad
make
y
up
dignidad.
pain,
Para mí un
but
acto de
reveals it
resistencia
with
también frente al
dignity.
absurdo.
For me, an act of
Nuestro otro
resistance
invitado,
against the
Mohamed
absurd.
Mahdy, que
Second
articula
guest speaker is Mohamed
su
Mahdy,
exploración
who
íntima y crítica de
articulates
comunidades
his
marginadas, la memoria
intimate
colectiva, la
vision of the
desaparición de
collective
formas de vida
memory, the
amenazadas por el
disparition
olvido,
of
la
menaced
privación o el
forms
abandono,
by
una
hatred or
sensibilidad con lo
abandonment, with
invisible,
an
lo
amazing
silenciado, y
delicacy
también
towards the
buscando siempre la
silenced
dignidad, ¿no?, de quienes
beings,
apuesta
always in
y los
search
quienes
of
retrata, una
dignity
ética y
of
una
the
mirada
subjects
honesta.
he portrays with a very
Y
honest
Salman,
regard.
nuestro
And
artista
thirdly,
también palestino, también
our
cofundador del
Palestinian
colectivo
artist
Ahafad,
Salman
que ha
Nawati,
desarrollado pues un
founder of
universo creativo profundo,
an
arraigado en la
association
resistencia
developing
cultural, en la
a cultural
imaginación colectiva,
resistance in this
con su proyecto
collective
que seguro nos va
imagination
a
with his
transmitir
project that
Sahad.
surely
Y
Saha
bueno,
um,
Salman no se resigna ante la adversidad,
Salman
sino que
does not
utiliza justamente la creatividad
surrender
como
against
forma de
domination,
resistencia.
but he uses
Ambos tres
creativity as a
desde
form
esa
of
ética
resistance.
camusiana de
So these
compromiso,
three dear
lucidez
colleagues, with
frente a las
their
injusticias. Con ellos
lucidity
os dejo.
against injustice, dear guests, you have the floor.
Bueno, creo que empiezo yo. Voy a hablar en español. I'm going to talk in Spanish, but we
I
just met
will speak
1 minute
in
before coming here, and then I think we can share our conversation in English in order to be more to be easier. Bueno, estoy muy contenta de estar aquí. Es realmente un auténtico
right.
privilegio.
It's a true privilege to be here. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for those making these Trobades a reality. It's amazing that we can enjoy this moment of reflection and thought and thinking of all these concepts that Camus gave us are a must, a true need, an uncombustible necessary reality. And I believe that being here now,
sobre la desesperanza, el ruido, la tragedia, sobre
noise,
las posibilidades
tragedy,
de la expresión,
hopelessness, and
el
the
compromiso ante un mundo
commitment
incomprensible
towards
que
this
camina por esos lugares,
not
se
easy to
convierte en
understand
un acto
world, you know,
tan poético y tan político
trying to
encontrarse en
wander
persona,
along these
que es
paths.
alucinante.
Meeting in person these days is
Me
an
parece que
achievement, a
tiene
true
algo de
achievement. I believe that
extraordinario, de ya
it
no
has
es
something
ordinario, ya no es
extraordinary.
lo
It's not
normal.
ordinary.
Estar
It's not
todos
the
juntos,
norm anymore. Being together,
escucharnos, compartir
gathering
idiomas,
in
compartir
person,
ideas,
sharing,
compartir vuelos,
sharing
compartir
flight
fangos,
ideas,
compartir maneras de
displacements,
salir del fango,
languages, ways to come out
volvernos a
the mud,
preguntar qué es lo que en el fondo, y
rethinking
aquí
and
retomo con lo que hacemos
re-wandering
nosotros,
again. And here
nosotros lo hacemos desde una forma visual,
we
desde
do
las
it
artes visuales,
from the visual arts.
que se preguntan con el resto de artes,
And
con un poco la
the
premisa
rest
que nos
of
han dado de punto
colleagues,
de partida para nuestra conversación, la cultura como lugar para inventar espacios nuevos,
culture
y si
as
la cultura al
a
degradarse nos acerca a la
space where
servidumbre.
people share
La cultura,
culture. Culture should not be
en primer
degraded because
lugar,
it would lead us to
es eso
becoming
que decía Camus,
slaves
de ese
somehow.
esfuerzo desesperado
It's this
para darle
desperate
forma a
effort.
nuestro sueño más clarividente,
Let's
pero es también de
hide
una
away from
manera
servitude.
reiterada
Let's go for
una
this
búsqueda de bueno, de plenitud
search, this
personal y colectiva.
clairvoyant
¿Cómo es posible
quest.
que queramos y podamos
Collectively,
hacer eso
how is it
tan
possible
extraño
for
que es seguir
us to be
viviendo
able
juntos?
to do this
Cada
weird thing
gesto
of living
artístico
together? Every single
lo único que nos da.
artistic step is what
Entonces,
he's
claro,
looking for. So when
nos planteaban este pensamiento de
we were
partida,
thinking
de
of
que
this departing
todo lo que degrada
point
a la
of
cultura acorta los
everything
caminos de conducción a la
degrading
servidumbre,
culture shortens the
es
paths
cierto.
towards
Decía
servitude,
Montaigne
it's
que
true. Montaigne
paradójicamente
said that
es en los
paradoxically,
momentos de derrumbe cuando más necesario se hace el arte. Y sin embargo, es en los
this is
momentos de derrumbe o
when,
es en los momentos de
in these
confusión o es
moments
los
of
momentos de aceleración,
confusion,
de ensordecimiento
of
como el que
this
tenemos ahora,
acceleration of
cuando
collapse,
la cultura quizá se
of
la desprestigia, se la
deafening,
banaliza, se
becoming
la
deaf,
degrada,
culture
se
is being
la deja
degraded,
en
is
en ese
banalized,
lugar
is
que no es
abandoned in
necesario,
that
porque
space
realmente no es
where it's
necesaria.
not
Ayer lo decía
necessary
Leila,
because people
hacemos
believe culture
algo,
is not
lo decía
necessary.
García
Leila said
Márquez
it
también,
yesterday. Garcia
y si
Marquez
enseguida
also said,
dejamos nuestra vida por el camino,
hey, let's
no
live our
sirve para
life
nada.
along the way, and it's
Yo hoy
useless,
quería,
pointless.
no voy a
So
hablar de mis
today,
películas, quiero hablar
I
de
will
una sola
not talk about
película
my
al
films,
final
but only
de mi
one
intervención,
single one after my
que es de Wim Wenders.
intervention. It's
Y
from
Wim Wenders
Wim
se
Wenders,
preguntaba con esta
and
su última
he
película si el
wondered
arte
with
es
this
transformador, si el arte es
latest
transformador.
film. He was
Y él
asked
decía que
whether
no,
art
que
is
no lo es per
transformative, and he
se.
said no, per
Que lo
se.
que pasa que ofrece un viaje,
However, it
el
offers
que
a
sea, no
journey,
sirve para nada, un
whatever,
juego,
which is pointless. It's a
una
game,
posibilidad que no
the
existe en tu vida,
possibility that does not
que
exist
hace
in your
que tú
life,
te
which
transformes.
makes
El viaje después
you
de
being
cualquier acto
transformed.
artístico, de
So
cualquier
the
historia, de
journey
cualquier
after
canción,
each story,
te transforma.
song, film
Cualquier
transforms
imagen
you. Any
realmente
image really
significativa, ávida de
important,
significado, te transforma. Cualquier
eager
palabra ávida de significado
of
te transforma. Y si te transforma a ti, eres tú entonces quien tienes la capacidad
if
de transformar el mundo. Quizá no el arte per
if you
se. Y
transform,
cuando
if
le
you are
quites el peso
transformed,
al
then you have
arte,
the
es el
capacity
objetivo
to
también
transform
para
the
que realmente
world.
podamos volver a ese
So
lugar de juego,
this
a ese
is
lugar donde no es
where we
necesario
can
el
go back to
resultado,
that
donde
place
no se
of
gana y se pierde,
playfulness,
donde
where you don't
no se
win or
tienen
lose, where you do not
beneficios
obtain
directos, no se
direct
obtienen
benefit,
utilidades directas o no se debería,
not
sino que
direct
es un acto
utilities or useful
suspendido
things. It's just
en
a
una
suspended act
en algo muy serio que es una
in something very
felicidad
serious,
honesta
which is an
y
honest state
que
of
crea algo que no estaba delante de
joyfulness.
ti.
It creates something that was not in
Aunque
front of
ya sé que
you.
lo sabemos todos,
I know that we all know
para preguntarnos sobre si nos
if
acercamos
we
a la servidumbre sobre la
wonder,
cultura, sobre el arte,
if we reach rather
no está de más
servitude towards art and
preguntarse
culture, it's useful
qué
to
es lo que
ask
pretende el
ourselves,
arte, lo que
what
pretendemos
does
en
art
nuestro caso
pretend? What do we
con la creación de
pretend
mundos desde la
by
imagen.
creating
Yo
worlds
creo que
from
algo que es algo que hacen los
images?
dos y que yo
I
intento
believe this is
hacer de
something
otras
my colleagues
maneras
do, and I also try to
es
do
hay
somehow
un imperativo
differently.
que es
There
mirar
is
donde no se quiere
an
mirar.
imperative.
Está el periodismo,
This
está la
is
historia, está la
looking
política que
somewhere where people don't want
necesitan
to look
hablar de
at.
lo que
We have
se
journalism,
quiere
we have
mirar y todos queremos
stories
mirar y discutir.
that
El
talk
arte
about
tiene
what
que mirar el
everybody
abismo, tiene
wants to
que
talk, but
mirar
art
donde
looks
no
at the
se quiere,
abyss.
donde no se puede,
Art should
girar
be
la cabeza
looking where
a
we
donde
can't or
si todos
where
estamos
we
mirando para
don't
allí,
want to.
el hacer hacernos esto permanentemente, ahí está
Art
el dolor, ahí
should
está
be
la mierda, ahí
doing this.
está
This is
la
where
alegría,
pain is. This is where
ahí
joy
está la
is. This
chispa, ahí está
is
lo
where
inexplicable,
the
ahí están las
spark is.
preguntas que no pueden
This is
ser
where the
respondidas,
questions that cannot be
porque esto
answered
es lo que es
reside.
el arte.
This is what
El,
art is about.
el camino a la servidumbre,
The
por tanto,
path towards
creo que se
servitude,
genera cuando en el arte
I
se mira
believe,
donde no quiere mirar y que tiene la
happens when
capacidad,
art,
como tenemos, porque somos, si
um,
volvemos a la base,
if
somos
we
algo
continue
tan
to,
absolutamente increíble, que es ser seres simbólicos,
it's
proyectivos. Somos
incredible. We
la
have
única
these
criatura
projective
que
beings. We
se
are the only
adelanta,
creature.
que genera algo que no existe
And
enfrente
this
de ti.
generates something
Y en
that
eso consiste todo lo que estamos
creates something
hablando
that
hoy.
doesn't exist in front of
La
you.
génesis de algo que
And
no
this is the
existe, que es jugar.
genesis of something that doesn't
Jugar es
exist.
ensanchar la
That is
existencia en
play.
vida,
It's making your tiny life and generating these logics, this new world that don't exist, that weren't there before. It's really amazing. This capacity of imagination, of creating these new beings, these new worlds that they are not you, being you yourself, living those time and spaces and possibilities, physical, spiritual, that are not you, even these different moods, being suspended in that area that cannot be named, this poetic capacity of vision and becoming these exceptional creatures. When culture becomes degraded, it is destroyed. It doesn't matter whether it's done in a political specific, by removing channels or financing, or it doesn't matter whether it's being oversaturated. More channels, more spaces, more discourses, more images, more stories, creating this beehive of too much noise, pushing this swarm of this mud, this spiral of noise, ending up with these a sentence beginning, culture is, art is. Nobody can fit that in a single drawer. It has so many possibilities, a myriad of them. So, what is, what should be, what you should say, what you should be, it goes against play, imagination, and culture per se. This is where it narrows. So, obviously, dogmatisms, all these paths towards seeing reality without the chromatism, these thousands of hues, possibilities, tones, only black or white, only this band or this other, this rigid, this becomes us all poor. It forces us towards servitude. It narrows our thoughts. We can't see anymore. We can't wonder anymore because imagining forces you to wonder, to ask yourself some invisible questions. You're not even aware that you are asking yourself these questions.
The other danger or threat that emerges with this simultaneity, this modern society, this beehive and this digital beehive of social media that prevents you from actually seeing, from actually talking, establishing a dialogue. So it detaches us from, and it degrades us, degrades culture. So it puts us in a place closer to servitude, a kind of invisible and highly painful servitude. There is something, this is something that moves me and shocks me. We are pushed with deafening noise, visible, invisible toxicities, sometimes even with sweet words. Sweetness pushes us towards abyss with a really painful ductility and docility in immediate ways. So we are whitening and softening culture, this role, because sometimes violence and noise, we focus on pain, this negative side, this painful side of our imaginary, looking at savagery, looking at barbarism, looking at, focusing on violent art with an honest dystopy. that mirrors an image that is equally nourishing and helpful to understand yourself and the world. The problem is those swarms that speed up reality, that prevent you from seeing well, that tie you up and you get, well, entangled in servitude. There is something, the way as I see and understand it, and this is the only way I know how to act. And I want you to of course, let us know about how you react. I do film. I'm a film director. So, Sandra, it was beautiful. I mean, there is only one impetus, one drive in film that I insist on. I learned it from Leonard Cohen, and he learned it from Lorca, the poet. You need to work from the drive within the limits of dignity and freedom, and instead of unlimitless, without dignity and beauty. They show infinite possibilities, endless possibilities. So in my case, this was wonderfully and very precisely said. Leila, in a subtle way, when she spoke about play, childhood, of ending yourself, or saying that maybe a way of inventing worlds, the way I understand something that really transformed me and helped me shape my personality from the very beginning since I was a child. Maybe we can find a quest for light in images, that we can build and construct a light that opens up your gaze and allows you to see the invisible, that which cannot be seen. It's not an epiphany. It has a religious connotation, but please allow me to say that this is a discovery that is given by the world, the presence of consciousness about beauty. And it's really a breath. It gives you air to the extent that you believe that everything is possible. It's like, even mystical, such an effort to Sisyphus when climbing up with the rock. The effort had been so big, so large on the way up, when breathing in, when from that exhaustion he undertook the way down in a beautiful. So, to the extent that there is a possibility of having a happy Sisyphus, I do film, and it's essentially suffering. Fernando Trueba says this, and I concur. Doing film and being a director is about solving problems. You want to create a world, a universe, but the reality puts many obstacles. You need to surmount so many limits. You need to go beyond the minds and gazes of a team, and you need to create an image, a livable world, livable experiences and emotions, being able to create them. It's, even though it sounds marvelous, it's an utter nightmare, a sacrifice, because it's raining. You cannot, shoot. There was a blackout. The actor, has a problem, has a stomach ache, and he cannot play. But even so, there comes a moment when this joint collective effort, teamwork, films are processes that take 4 or 5 years of creative processes, work since the very moment you start writing your screenplay. You need to empty yourself out to the moment you make your last copy in Berlin in a computer so that you can submit it to whoever. So all those years of logistics, of fighting, of struggling, incredible efforts of men and women fighting the utter limits of reality, because camera can only show what it has in front of it, reality, the present, the actuality of we have in front of us. It can only capture the moment, the present moment, that when This Martin Scorsese labels it as a spark, unexplicable, unexplainable spark that creates a type of happiness that is sufficient, indispensable for everything to continue working. It has to do with that invincible summer, that spark that is as big as a drop of water, and you can find it anywhere. Like yesterday, the sea speaks to you, a place where you can come back to whenever you wish, with an honest type of happiness that gives sense to everything, that makes sense. And it's full of meaning. So that obsession for reconstructing, from reliving that moment in cinema, this is a collective act, and it's absolutely beautiful. Everybody working in, I mean, supporting each other. They get up at 4 a.m. to do absurdity, to do absurd things that can, well, end up in something tangible or not. But it's about the search for light, elevating yourself in a flight that allows to see beyond, beyond your tiny existence, an existence that is small, tiny, because of life, because of reality. That's my obsession. That's how I relate to the world. So you can create worlds where there are dragons, where people fly. And when an invisible detail, your pupil, your eye, your gaze, that's the goal of my work, expands, the pupil expands to absorb the awareness of the universe. Yesterday I arranged this with Sandra. There is a film by Wim Wenders. I don't know whether you watched it or not, but it really symbolizes and depicts an idea that connects enchantment, awe, play, wonder, creating worlds from it's called Perfect Days. It creates a new reality from a toilet. It's absolutely Camusian. This is one of the most fascinating films. It shows such a degree of wisdom, of knowledge of a person that has gone through a lot to be able to tell you. So it's a man that gets up every day to do something so humble, so tiny, so undramatic, so unfascinating as cleaning up toilets, public toilets. That's what he does on an everyday basis. But he devotes every gesture of attention, of care, for perfection, for beauty, generating beauty in that very act of cleaning toilets. So at night, he listens to music, to different. And of course, he works on a place that smells of cleaning products. So he puts on his overalls and a small, I mean, he's so elegant with his towel around him. It's even more elegant with that white towel. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful, even that gesture. A man that day by day, day after day, when that pupil is expanded, to look at how the light changes. I mean, there is a chiaroscuro on the tree leaves. It's always a unique moment, a poetic and creative act, a massive act of creating beauty. He's generating a new world at looking at how the wind turns the tree leaves. That's the way the film finishes. That's the end. He's coming back to his task. Those leaves, that instant of beauty is unique. It's there, it's present, and will be recurrent, will repeat itself. That's the very matter of dreams. That's where I work. I'm obsessed with looking at those instances of light, the essence, constructing worlds, poetic worlds with images. By poetic, I mean when this drive forward of the historical axis, narrative time, dramatic time, something stops, this random movement, so that kairos is not chronos, but kairos, that nourishes you. It's a gift. And this cannot be understood, but it's there. Esmeralda, she's a great poet, the mother of an actress I worked with, Greta Fernandez. So I worked with her to create a character, Teresa. In our version, she had a lot of doubts, and she desperately looked for light, for a yes, for an affirmative statement. So that eternal yes, what Nietzsche pointed out when he encouraged us to embrace the darkness of the soul, that yes, when Sisyphus, when he's exhausted, when coming back, he undertakes that with happiness. With Greta, we worked in the middle of a forest. He looked at her fingers, and she saw flames coming up from her hands. This is the way of creating all possible worlds from a hand, with fire coming out of its fingertips, to a man that cleans public toilets. He's looking for a poetic habit that keeps him alive. That's the goal I work for, from the margins of dignity. I'm a great fan of Federico Garcia Lorca. I would like to conclude by reading a text and two more ideas by Simone Weil. Next, she was a mystical poet compared to Camus, but they are, so close. She expressed that quest for light, that eagerness to find light, that even wishing and that longing creates light. When you pay attention, like Sisyphus puts care and attention when climbing up the mountain. So that's that longing, that desire. So even that seems sterile and pointless, going up that mountain once and again, one day there comes a day when you don't know how those efforts, that longing, are not a day, but every day when coming down the mountain, you realize that there is a light that is proportional to the effort you made when climbing up, when pushing up that rock up the mountain. Just because of that, because the tree leaves turn with the wind and change their color with the incidence of light. So of course, this might sound a bit abstract because I focused on light, because that's what I do. Cinema is about light and movement. There is nothing. That's the very matter of cinema. It's all of our pupils together capture light, make movement possible on the screen. They are capable of exploding the universe if we want to do so. When looking at the screen, we can understand and transform everything. By listening to the previous speakers, journalists, cartoonists, and coming down to mud, to the ugly, Wim Wenders represents and embodies ethics and aesthetics by Camus, that man, that cleaning man, that has inside him an invincible summer. When he's performing that act of cleaning toilets. So one of the key ideas is not losing the scale of the humans. It might seem nonsense or too obvious. I know, I'm aware, but sometimes we are losing up the scale of what is human. We detach ourselves too much. When we overcome, we neglect that active listening to the other. That's when fanatism emerges, because we forget what it is to be human, to relate to other human beings. So that poetic, when I spoke about leaves, light, everything lies in that pupil, in that gaze, in keeping up to the scale, to human scale. Always in the most honest utopias and the most painful dystopics, the impossible worlds, never ever in those worlds you cannot afford to lose the scale of what it is to be human. And that's all on my part. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. So first of all, I'm very grateful to be here again for a second year. And I'm grateful more because, as I can see, like we are all coming from very segregated environments, but yet under one roof, sharing life together, which is always beautiful. So good evening. My name is Mohamed Mahdy. I'm a visual storyteller from Alexandria, Egypt. So I do projects usually about marginalized communities at a risk of being erasure because of demolishing, displacement, political neglect, but also projects related to culture and culture identity, environmental changes. And usually, like as you can see, like I do specific stories. I don't do the current, I don't follow the current. I just do whatever I feel it's right to do and where my heart and my journey will lead me. And usually my projects start with a very simple question. Who the hell am I? To have a point of view. And this is the polite version of asking the question to myself. And also, sometimes I wonder like, who gets to be remembered and also who gets to be excluded from the narrative. And usually by asking myself that question, it always pushed me to think about, again, who creates these new narratives, a new world, and who to be remembered. And also pushed me to think about the ethical responsibilities of me and other storytellers when representing others. So usually in my projects, I'm like trying to co-create the project with the protagonist in a sense of like rethinking always the approach of documentary image making by giving them the power to choose how they want to be represented, you know, how they want their stories to be out there, which is always, you know, changing the power dynamic of me coming, you know, from, even if it's my culture, you always feel like you are an outsider. So I'm trying to do that in my projects. And actually, when I was thinking about like the title of our panel today, like culture as a way of inventing new worlds, I was wondering like, what world? Like mine is different than yours and hers and a lot of people. And usually like we coming from a very different and segregated environments. So different ideas, different perspectives, different point of views. So storytellers have the power to create beautiful stories and beautiful world to share, but at the same time, we can also destroy a world, like how that mountain or island would be beautiful if my brother died there, or if someone said there is a criminal, there is psychos, or someone pointed as another human being and said he's not a human. So I'm trying to, actually my approach started to change, where I'm trying simply to use a technique to be a child again. And that means like I go to an environment, I'm not just an observer, but I want to immerse myself. I want to live and I want to perceive as much as I can. Like a child in a new world, you know, to listen, to smell, to touch, and to taste. And to be honest, this feeling of surrendering, it kills that ego that we have, not just as an artist, but also as a human. You come and you think, or you carry your ideas, your perspective, and it could not be true. You could destroy a culture, even if it's your own culture, but you could destroy it by just having a point of view that is not totally correct. So I'm always trying to surrender. And again, like you found out that it's always there, the narrative around us. You just have to listen and just to have, not to have an opinions, especially when you start a project. So I started as a street photographer when I was 13 years old. And I did that for 6 years. Now I'm 28, I grew up finally. So as a street photographer, I think I have learned a lot because again, like being at a young age and exploring my culture and these new worlds and new narratives to me was magnificent. Again, it taught me a lot of lessons, like I don't know anything, but at the same time, it showed me that photography is not just a tool we use, but also it's a way where we can build bridges, but also a way for understanding, and also could be a testimony, like a powerful thing, but also images, sometimes it's a reminder, you know, and we can save moments and times that we can share it with others and new generations. So I have been doing that for 6 years, where again, I have learned a lot of beautiful things from the interactions with this world and those beautiful people, until I remember that I have met Ami Said. And Ami Said, like usually I learned like to give something back to the community. So I used to print a picture and give it back. And I remember like I took a picture of him. I promised him I will come back after 1 week. And then somehow I got late. I came after 2 weeks. And then when I entered the area, one of the protagonists or like the resident of the area, he actually saw the images and he took it from my hand, and then he looked at it, and then people started to gather around him. He started to say, "Oh no," and he said like, "This man has passed away like 2 days ago." I was 16 years old back then, or 17. I felt guilt, like I promised him and I didn't come. So what happened is I sat on the ground, I wrote a personal like note to his family, like, "I'm sorry, I got late. He was so nice. He allowed me to take a picture." And I asked one of the residents to please give his portrait to his wife. And then I came after 2 weeks. Of course, I left with a kind of guilt, but after 1 week, I came back. One of the residents saw me, and then he said, "Aren't you the photographer who took the images of Ami Said?" I was like, "Yeah." And he said, like, his wife was asking about you, if you can come and maybe you meet her. I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And then he asked her if I can come up. I went to her, and she was sitting, and her daughter right next to her, and she asked her, "Can you please bring the photograph?" And she went and brought it, and then she held it, and I noticed that the paper was wet, like it feels someone was crying over it. And then she looked to me in my eyes, and this is the magic of life, that sometimes people look in the eyes, and then you never become the same person again. And she said, "I don't know, how did you take that picture? He hates photography, and we don't have a picture of him. And this is the only thing we have of him now." And that feeling of guilt has immediately changed, because I felt for the first time that photography and storytelling, it couldn't be just about me. Usually you think like it's my image, it's my picture, but at the end, you know, it's also they are part of that narrative. And I felt like I need to do a narrative that not just I enjoy it, but also it means something to someone, you know, like this photographs. So I started with a small projects. I live close to the sea in Alexandria. And I remember that day I was coming, you know, and you can see the sea at the end of that big street. And then I found like a horse running. And then behind it, I found a horse running, but there is a monkey who riding that. and then a bird flying behind them, and then a dog. And I was wondering, like, how this happened? Like, I just had a normal breakfast. So I ran, I remember that day, I ran quickly, and I found the monkey. He was the one who was riding. And I was like, by asking them what's happening, and I figure out that a family spending their summer with their animals, just like that, you know. So they love to enjoy it and bring all the animals with them from Cairo to Alexandria. So they have monkeys, they have birds, they have everything. And also they have these Palestinian horses where they trade it through Rafah tunnel in Egypt by giving oil and sugar and rice and stuff like that. So it was very beautiful just to encounter this world. And other small stories where I was discovering and growing over my career, like this one, I saw this beautiful young man, and I asked them, like, why you are wearing the same clothes? And he said, like, we are showing our love and our friendship by wearing the same clothes in our celebration, like especially after Ramadan. And again, like in our culture, no one knows that, but it's usually you get to know a new world and a new narrative by just asking a simple question. So I was just looking for them everywhere, yeah, just trying to find them on the coronation of Alexandria and both them. And even they were describing beautiful stories, like we went to the same shop together, everyone in a different direction, and we got the same outfit at the end. We don't know how, but we are synced. So it was beautiful. Even sometimes you feel like they are twins because of, you know, how they were same. So this drove me again, like to my first long-term project called Moon Dust, and it's 5 minutes where I live in Alexandria. And again, like I felt, what I feel that the stories sometimes choose me. And then I was meeting with one of my friends, Mohamed Mahdy, and he said, like, we are moving from that area because my young sister was about to die because of asthma. And I was like, I have asthma, but how it kills you? And he said, like, you have to go there, you have to see what's happening. So I felt this is something to do, something to follow. So I went to the area, and I figured out, like, if you can see, this is the area, 60,000 residents lives in it, and there is a cement factory was built 10 meters away from the residential area. So it's surrounded with also petrol factory, chemical factory, and salt factory. So they call it, like, now it's not Moon Valley, it's a Hell Valley. So what we figure out collaborating with doctors that, you know, children start to born with asthma since the first day. So it's become something in their gene. They take it from their mother. And what I was thinking about is to document their stories and, you know, to see how the emissions affecting them. It's not just producing cement, but it's work with coal and garbage and burns them. And then instead of finding ethical ways of containing the damage, it spread it to the air, which increase the pollution. So I was trying to prove that the people were here first before the cement factory, and we found a lot of evidence, like renting paper. It was like a Jewish woman living in Alexandria called Deva Konena, and it was in 1927, and the factory was built in 1948. So we proved that because he had a lot of conflict in the court, in the Egyptian court, like who came first. So after we proved that, I started to document and immerse myself for like almost 3 years, a documentary project where actually Jessica Morai, one of the audience, was involving in that project and helped me a lot. So I was documenting people's stories, you know, and personal stories and how cement affected them and destroyed their life as a children. You know, you cannot go out, you cannot play. And I remember, like, Am Adri, he passed away, Allah yarhamu, and he called me once. He said, like, you have to come and see. Like, I forgot my window open for a week, and this is what happened. Come quickly and document that. So here, like Amal, she just opened the window for half an hour, and there's 1 inch of cement and dust gathered. And here on the other side, like, I forgot her name, Farouk, and she said, like, I got tired from just cleaning every 1 hour. So usually people are putting plastic bags because of the cement, but increase the heat. Like I showed that in a documentary movie. So also because of the oven is very close to the houses, so all the cracks that you can see, it's coming because of the vibration that crack the houses, and sometimes the roof fails. And all of these personal stories about how fathers and families feel when one of their children have an asthma, but they can't do anything. And Abdurrahman, when I met him, he said, like, the doctor told him, you're gonna die soon because of that. And again, it was finding a ways of doing a surgery to him. So I did that project, but again, I was always thinking like how to create, a world for everyone where they can witness what's happening, not just myself. Even here, it was a beautiful story. Like Amal, she said, I want to see my house beautiful as everyone. So with each new crack, I put a new sticker. So she was hiding all the cracks with the stickers. So what happened is I decided like to create an exhibition because I wanted to invite the protagonist. I want to invite actors, journalists, almost everyone in Egypt, so they can witness what's happening. I remember I went to a company called Smaili, and they have a cement garage in the downtown. I told them like, I need that garage because it was filled with cement, like it wasn't decorated or anything, and they gave it to me for free. I remember Bertan, he was a friend from Prince Claus. I asked him, I just need 500 euro, and I'm gonna do a change with it. And 500 euro was a good money converting to Egyptian currency. So I did the printing, I did a small publication with the research, with doctors. We brought the people with buses to attend the exhibition. And actually, it became alive. So we offered all the work to be on sale and all the profit to go and support the family 100%. And actually, we sold 13 photographs in the first day. So what happened is, again, a lot of people under one roof, everyone having a different authority, a different power, and then this idea of oneness, that when we collaborate with a good intention, with a good purpose, magic happens. So after that exhibition, I got a call from New York Times and Amnesty where it increased the exposure of what's happening. And again, this case has been opened in Egypt, and after 3 months, the factory started to install filters to the chimneys. And this was a huge step. It's temporary, but it was good. And actually, the exhibition started to travel to many places like France Biennale and Institut du Monde Arabe. We got Photo Plus, Photovel, and Geopolis. And then actually, before I come here, like months, the last months, like the court started to judge 2 people, and they started to take compensation for the damages that happens to them. So finally, it started to happen after almost 10 years. But again, this project was showing me that, again, like when we collaborate, when we have a purpose, changes happen, and narrative and storytelling could have that power of, moving. Like I think Paula said something like that, a drop, in the river of water, and it creates a ripple effect. A very quick project, also the one that I won the award here last year, where also it's a recent project. And it's about, again, my neighborhood called Al-Max, and it's a fishing community, one of the oldest in the whole Middle East. They call it Little Venice because it has the same vibe and beauty of the Italian Venice. And again, I was documenting the people's story because they got a notification from the government they will be demolished and their culture will fade away without any explanation. And this has not happened. Like they don't explain to you. So I was documenting that for years, but again, how to surrender to the environment and how to do something not just about my point of view. And I was here documenting that feeling of waiting because they have been waiting and they don't know when they will come. And you can see it's a very beautiful area. Actually, I used to go when I was studying art to just practice there, like drawings and a lot of things. So people were very angry, were very mad, but also very sad. They don't know what happened. And then the demolishing started to happen until now 1/3 of the area has been demolished and the rest will go soon. We don't know when. So the beautiful thing, again, by surrendering, and I remember I asked of one of the fishermen, we were having a discussion, and he said something very beautiful about the cultures that they used to throw letters into the sea, because they believe in my culture that the sea is a creature from God, and he will take all of your words immediately to him. And they started to narrate a beautiful story about Amm Bal'outi, who went to someone he couldn't write, and he told him, please, I want to write a story to God, and a letter. And he told me, okay, tell me. And then he said, like, hey, God, like, I have a very old boat and very old equipment, and I have 3 daughters. I want to help them to get married, but I want you to give me, not because I have equipment, but because you can, and you created everything, so you can do anything. And they said he took that letter and he threw it to the sea. And this is a year he is the most fishers who got fishes, even with his old equipment. So when I was researching about the idea of letters, I found it's usually has been used at war when someone about to die in the sea, and he writes his last letter, and then he put it on a bottle and he threw it. So what was happening in the area back then, that our media usually defaming, communities and neighborhoods that they want to demolish. So when they demolish them, no one feel a sense of compassion. So we wanted to change that, and again, give them the power to narrate their own story. So I started to give them blank papers and asking them, this is your last letter, just write whatever you want. And actually it was more authentic than what I was doing. And actually, like, some of those letters, it's beautiful. It's about the individual memories. Someone writing a daughter about his daughter, someone writing a poem, someone, a beautiful woman, Karam, she wrote like that she builds a house with her husband, and she remembered he was so kind, filling the holes with paper to protect her from cold, coming at night, wrapping her with a plastic bag. And she had a tree that she planted in front of her house. And every morning when she read or recite Quran underneath it, the birds gather around her. So it was her heaven. But when they took that house from her and they put her into a temporary room, she said, if they moved me again from here, I don't care. Here the doors do not know me and the windows do not recognize me, which shows that people are connected to their environment, to their memories, and to their houses, not just an object. It's a living thing. It's a part of their memories. And these individual actually memories and identities, it's what creates the collective identity. And by breaking that, you are breaking the history of what's happening today. So actually collecting those letters and asking them, how do you want to be represented? How do you want others to see you? It changed again the whole project by surrendering to them. You choose your way of being represented. It brought a lot of new narratives and a lot of new pictures, but also I was collecting pen pal evidence. I was collecting drawings from locals who drew it on the houses and boats, old maps of the area. And also what we found out that when the protagonists started to give me their archives, I have like over 800 archival images. We decided to create an interactive website where again, like how to make an impact, how to change the situation. And here it was different because they needed exposure and to challenge what's happening in the media. So in that interactive, I recommend you to go and check it because the time it would be too much. But the idea was like to hover and you see the letter, but also the protagonist read it with his voice, but also where I created a profile where also you can send them a letter. And we created a group for them. Now it's very big in Alexandria, where we are sharing all of these letters with the community so they don't feel abandoned. And actually that project won World Press Photo, both regional and a global award. And actually Jessica again was involved in that project. Jessica, you are in my life, all the steps. So, and the magic happened again by surrendering. We started to receive thousands of letters across the world in English and German and French and Spanish and Chinese and a lot of languages, and people sharing what does a home mean? What does a memory mean? People sharing the same experience that happened, because in World Press, it travels to all over 100 countries. I just asked them to have a writing station. That's it. I didn't do anything with those letters, but we hope it's gonna be in the book that we are creating now. So again, like the protagonist become very enthusiastic and they faked an ID to me, so I'm officially a fisherman now, so I can go and live with them in the sea. And again, I wasn't expecting all of that, but this opened a door to discover another layer of the project, another piece of a bigger portrait. Because to be honest with you, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, you will never convey a full portrait, a full image. It's always like fragmented, it's always fragile, and we try to bring pieces. So what I'm telling to myself, I have to gather as much as I can and allow the audience to, also create their own narrative and see as much as they can. It's part of the responsibility. So it was very beautiful, again, to have a new layer in the sea. But also after that, I felt like, usually when I was showing the archive images of the project, like people used to look at it in a nostalgia way, like I want to live in the past was so good. But again, I was always feeling like if we are breaking, the individual identity now, the individual memories and the collective memories of today, this is the history of the people. And we are afraid that we're going to lose that because we actually are losing that. So I wanted somehow to create this terminology called a broken memory. What does a broken memory means in a broken society, And I thought if I broke their past, the nostalgia that we get from the archive image, with the present, which is the demolished houses, I can get close to that terminology. So it was an experimentation by merging the archives. I have over 800 archival images with the demolished houses, that has been gone. And, and we started to get a new layer of the project. No one has seen that work before. So you can see the textures of history with their own walls. So yeah, I just want to end that so I don't take much time. And I would like to say in a word that forgets too quickly. And I recall a phrase from Naguib Mahfouz, an Egyptian writer, who said, like, the disease of our neighborhood, that they are forgetfulness, which we forget too quickly. And I was thinking that, like through culture and through art and storytelling, we remember, and through it also we rebuild. It's always a reminder, but again, it will be always a reminder unless we do a step, a change, and I always see that happen by collaboration, no matter who you are, like a writer, photographer, a filmmaker, a curator, when we gather for a purpose with different authorities, we always do a change. That's it for today. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Hola, hola.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hola, España.
Hi, Spain. Hello, greetings.
My name is Salman Nawati. I feel you are tired. Sorry. My name is Salman Nawati. I'm from Gaza, original. I left Gaza in 2021, the end of 21. I'm a survivor from 5 wars, but I missed the genocide, but my family is still there. Thank you, Sandra, for inviting me to be here after all this year of culture of denial as a Palestinian in Gaza, especially. We grow up with this kind of culture of denial that no one care about your voice. The world did not know that much about the human and the creativity side and the education that we get and how excellent we are as a Palestinian. So about this question of culture as a space to invite new words, I thought about the title and tried to link it with my project as an artist. First of all, what does inventing a new word mean in our time? And is it an urgent need or necessary? To answer this question, I will get back to my experience as an artist. I was wonder that I didn't grow up with this kind of situation to feel I'm always wanted to survive. I was wonder all the conflict between any people in general. It's just a game or just a play. So I create a project, call it Conflict, and I try to embody the different perspective of this kind of conflict. And I use the chess as a tool. Like why we cannot use a chess just if we wanted to fight as a people or different culture or different religion, I don't know. And at the end, no one will die. So just there is a loser and there is a winner, and after that we replay. Here in this artwork, I try to ask myself a question. Could we survive in an imagination? And that's me and my wife, my children. As you see, like, I'm still in the situation or in the environment of this kind of conflict, but it's not a conflict, it's occupation and colonization that I didn't choose it. I grew up, like I born in 1987, the first intifada, and I smelled the Israeli gas when I was 7 days. So from there, I start my relation with this kind of occupation. But I'm always try to keep the little child inside me alive with imagination. So it was a question and it's success. I'm here now and my children, my wife also here, but I don't have the enough imagination of power imagination to take all my family to survive. So as a culture, the question of culture, I always think about culture as a tool, as a tool of resist. And here, in this painting, I sit in the culture and I try to play piano just to resist the power of all the things that against us, the occupation, the religion, the capitalism, all the people, they have the power just to redesign us or to control us. And I embody them as an elephant. And I believe that culture and art you can face this people, but you need to be a little bit smart how and when. So in this context, I asked a question, but I didn't find the answer. We will discuss about it. The new word to be invented about creating a new culture, or is it the new culture that created? We will see. But what should looks like? I always remind myself of my grandmother house. It's one of the most important house for all of us, like each one, I think, because it reminds me about first place that has everything: family, the culture, the empathy, the museum, the education, the beauty, and etc., etc. So what we are lost in this time, from my perspective, that we lost the kitchen as a culture. We have very modern kitchens, but all these kitchens didn't have any of empathy, any of collective family, any of like really collective cooking together. If we back to the past, that when I remember my grandmother and all the women, like my mom and others, they met and they cook together, and they, in around this table, they create the culture, they take decisions, and in the hide part of this house, my grandmother hide all the very expensive collection, and it's a little museum. So, in my opinion, if we find a way to get back or to restore our old kitchen as how it was, we will have established ground to start from. But if we still like very far away of the meaning of where the culture started from, we will continue lost. Another question about the ability of shaping the future through culture. I think everything is possible. For me, since 3 years I left Gaza, I discovered like why we are communicating English. And I start to realize more and more and observe like why we should continue in English. I hate this language. I appreciate that the Spanish people that not good in English. I feel, wow, finally, I found my people. I hate it and I don't like it because of the colonial culture they dominate in all the world. How they just collect all the information and publish it in English. All the resources will in English. The AI in English. Everything in English. So when under the genocide, we try to go up of the censorship. So we try to create some words against this to access and to send our messages, but it doesn't work. So I have a project. Let's create our own new language against all these languages. Everyone can keep his language, but we should create language for all the free people that they believe there is no need for the English language or any colonial language. Like we wanted to do when we want like to make a demonstrate. Why we demonstrate in English? Like we free Palestine. We need we should have our own. So the reason came from here, and I met all like a lot of people, my friends and other people that I met, and we discussed that. And after that, I find it's very useful. So anyone can join. And here in Italy, I write Free Palestine in my own language. Or it's not my own, our language, because this language, it's the we or nahnu in Arabic. So it's not for anyone. It's not for one. It's for everyone. And it's very, very easy and very simple. So this is about the ability. No one will ask. We live in a world that one can go and it change all everything in the world in the world in 1 day or 1 hour. And he said, let's make this, and all they said yes. And another morning he changed his mind and say, let's do another. So I think we all have the right to do whatever we want. But what we need, I realize that if we still work individual, we will never achieve our goals. So if we really wanted to succeed, we need to work collectively, together. As much as we have this kind of collective work, like as you say in your film, you feel this kind of collective, and you say also, and Sandra mentioned the collective that make this happen. So we always talk about collectives, but we don't keep it as a methodology to continue like lifestyle. Why we just became a collective when we have an object, when we have a subject or a project, we wanted to do it to make success, we remind us, let's work collectively. And after that, everyone goes his phone and we became individual again. So this is my thoughts that, and because of that, I try to do something 100% collectively and against all this kind of power of capitalism, occupation, etc., etc. And we create our own museum. Because as an artist, when I was just a dream to present my artwork in fucking museum, sorry to this word, because I was educated that if you achieve and your painting or your artwork became exhibited in a museum, you became, oh, this is the last stage. And we grow up with this culture of denial, as I said, so we don't have galleries to achieve exhibition. We cannot go out of Gaza. So the idea became, let's make our own museum, and we give this opportunity for everyone, for the artists in Gaza, for the artists in the world, for the people they believe in the freedom. And we broke all the rules about the museums. Like we are not agree about how the museums looks like now. So we create our museum to redefine the meaning of the museum. Sahab, it's cloud. And the cloud, it's a place that we apply and our archive there. So we try to redefine the meaning of a cloud in English to be an Arabic way in Sahab. It's a cloud. So Sahab, it's a museum, imaginary museum for Gaza. Start like this, but now it's became imaginary museum for all the Palestinian and all the people they support Palestine. There is no war. We build it as real, just floor, and this is the first one. The second rule about you can touch the collection inside through the VR. There is no security, there is no tickets. You can resize the collection. If you want to, if you choose one painting, for example, you choose how big it will be or how small. You can draw this and make your creation. So everyone attend this place as a virtual space. He has the right to exhibit this as he wish or as they wish. And the museum became more than collective. It was a necessary but now it's became emergency because we try to make workshops with the artists, with the people. They have stories. We try to archive as much as possible from our narrative, from our heritage, because the destruction, it's unbelievable and you cannot measure it. What you see in the media, it's 10% from the reality. We lost our structure, infrastructure, and our city, but we don't lost our narrative, our archive. So as a community or as a collective, we realize that only our community, they can decide how they wanted to archive and how they wanted to present them heritage and archive and the collection. This is like everything. I think, and it's not enough, but regarding our capacity, we are like very little people against 90% of the war. I know there is a lot of people, they are support Palestine and they stand with Palestine, but indeed, they are very weak. Like the system that the human being built it's really very heavy and they cannot redesign it. Like what's happening now for everyone, like I observe, I was taught and believe in this kind of freedom and the democracy in Europe and America and everywhere in the West and the East. But for me, I discovered that all the people, all the world live under colonial, but in another, like, we have the occupation direct and we know it, but the other, they thought that they are free, but sorry, I live here now and I don't feel this kind of freedom. I don't feel like even the people they are create the system, they cannot improve it. And then they still try to protect it, but I think we need to redefine the meaning of freedom, the meaning of democracy, the meaning of like what we are as a human. But it's not hopeless. There is always hope, because I believe if we keep the little child in ourselves alive and we get back to play and to active this child, we will restore the space of empathy, the space of collectively, the space of love, to redesign our future in the way that we all agree about. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. 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 Thank you.
Maybe you can give the word. You can
the word.
give the word to the audience.
Yeah, if anyone wanna to have a question or
A
Sí.
question back there. Is there a mic?
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Can I have a picture?
Yeah.
Hola, me ha gustado mucho.
Hello. I really liked the intervention by Salman because he dealt about a very important topic for small kids, the mother language, the mother tongue, because being able to transmit the mother language is the best way to work against violence. And I will give you an example from Minorque. Since I live here in this island, everybody talks to me in English, every single person. No one talks to me in Spanish, even less so in Minorcan, in Catalan. They don't know that I am Catalan. I come from Barcelona. And I grew up in Barcelona back then during the Franco days. And with my family, we spoke Catalan. It was the language of resistance. And I say this because both Salman and Leila talked about their grandmothers. Imagine the problem in France right now when there are children who cannot talk with their grandpas and grandmas because they don't know their language. And this is the first form of violence. And as a specialist of the early years of children, I can tell you that when a child cannot transmit with his or her family, it's impossible to live in a world of tolerant and open humanities.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Me sumo a tu idea
I join your idea
podemos cambiar el mundo.
that through a kitchen we can change the world. Do you follow me? I mean that according to what we eat, our kitchens, we can change the landscapes, we can change the world. During the lockdown, during the COVID, we learned how to cook again. We cooked slowly. Nature was back there again. Can you remember all those animals walking around like this ecological Ramadan? You know, people should learn to cook everybody again and enjoy. And around this collective kitchen, we should all learn to cook our local produce. We should all use season produce because our planet is warming up, and depending on what we eat, we should eat less meat. We can eat lots of vegetables and fruit. We will all be more healthy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bueno, vamos a
Right.
cerrar y agradeceros
Let's
realmente a
close
los tres,
this
¿no?
first
por
roundtable. Thank you
traernos
very
abierto
much, dear
a ese
guests,
espacio de
for
luz y sobre
having
todo, yo creo,
opened these
a comprender
spaces
que
full of light,
necesitamos
having helped
trabajar
us
en colectivo,
understand
de
that we
ejercer
need to work
realmente ese
collectively.
papel en
We need
colectivo tan
to
necesario como
play
ocupáis
this
cada uno
necessary
en
role
vuestras
as
diferentes
each of you
disciplinas, pero yo
are
creo que
implementing in your
veis ahorrado a
different
todas
disciplines.
nosotras
Thank
y
you
por
so
eso os doy
much
las
for
gracias.
having
Muchas
shared
gracias.
your experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.